So I'm here by the walls of old Quebec City, and I've come across a monument. On the one side of the monument is Franklin Roosevelt, the American president. On the other side of the monument is Winston Churchill, British Prime Minister. And the monument commemorates, as it says here in French, the monument commemorates the Quebec Conferences, where Roosevelt and Churchill met here in Quebec to discuss the prosecution of the Second World War. As I looked at the monument, I noticed that there was nothing commemorating there's no image of the Canadian Prime Minister, who was also here at Quebec, named William Lyon Mackenzie King. But then I noticed that there's a quote here from him, and let me see. So basically, the quote here is, "Wouldn't it be great if history could recount that it was in Quebec where the liberation of France was assured." That's a rough translation. So we do have a quote from the Canadian Prime Minister, but we have no image of the Canadian Prime Minister. We have the American President. We have the British Prime Minister. The Canadian Prime Minister is not here, but he is quoted, and there's a reference to France. What that reminds me of is something that I think a lot of folks who know a good bit about World War II, maybe they one of the things that's sometimes forgotten is the very important role that Canada played in the war, and Canada sometimes gets lost in the British contribution. Canadian troops are sometimes sort of included with the British troops, but Canada played a very important role in this war. And it's interesting that the quote here from William Lyon Mackenzie King, the Canadian Prime Minister, has to do with the liberation of France, because that's one of the places where Canada played a very important role. When it came to the liberation of France, the D-Day invasion of June 44, the British took 2 beaches, the Americans took 2 beaches, but then the Canadians had a beach of their own that they took. And that's just one of the many important roles that Canada played in the Second World War, and I wish it were better known, the role that Canada played in that very important war. So we have Winston Churchill of Britain, Roosevelt of the U.S. Then we have a quote here reminding us that the Canadian Prime Minister was also here in Quebec for the Quebec Conferences during the war, and that Canada played a very important role in the Second World War.